Hello, and thank you for joining us for this walkthrough of our current exhibition, No Time To Be Tame. My name is Bradley Butler, and I am the Executive Director and Curator at Main Street Arts in Clifton Springs, New York. This invitational exhibition features the work of Pat Pauly, Joanna Poag, and Werner Sun. Using fiber, clay, and paper, these artists push the limits of their chosen artistic disciplines. Quilts are paintings, prints are dimensional sculpture, and ceramic sculpture resemble quilts. The connective thread that holds this group of artists together is the use of pattern and repetition of form, as well as the idea of not staying within a predetermined set of rules. I have been looking forward to this exhibition for a while now. The show started, or the idea for the show started with the work of Pat Pauly. I knew that I wanted to include her work in an exhibition, but I didn't know how the show would evolve. I did a studio visit with Pat in March of last year and just kind of sat with the idea of a show that featured Pat's work. Then I remembered the work of Joanna Poag and what she was posting on Instagram, a series of clay collages she started sharing publicly in the spring of 2022. So I then set up a visit with Joanna in October of last year and instantly knew how great their work paired together. It was also at Joanna's studio where I came up with the idea for the title of this show. I was talking with her about her experiences showing in various galleries, and she was talking about how, some places she feels the need to be more conservative, and in other places she can be a little bit more wild with her work. In talking about how she felt she needed to be more tame in certain galleries, I said, kind of jokingly, "This is no time to be tame, Joanna." So, and then I thought, well, that's kind of a good title. So that title stuck, and I think it fits perfectly with the exhibition. So knowing that I wanted to have a 3-person show, I was thinking about who else to invite, and I got to thinking about how I've wanted to do a visit with Werner Sun from Ithaca for several years now, and I was looking at his recent work and saw how great it would fit with both of the other artists I already had lined up. So then I did that visit with him. And I just want to let you know that we have an artist talk scheduled for next Tuesday, August 13th at 5 p.m. We'll be having an online artist talk with Pat, Joanna, and Werner live on YouTube. So tune in for that. And I'm going to take you through the show a little further. I'll also take you upstairs. But first I'm going to tell you a little bit about each of the artists and their work. So first we'll start with Pat Pauly. And we'll look at a few of hers down here. So Pat Pauly has a degree in art and graduate work in design and fine art. She chose fiber art as the perfect amalgam of construction, painting, and printmaking. She has taught throughout the United States, Canada, and Australia in design and surface design. And Pat says of her work, "Professors forecast a great life for me as a painter. The appeal of color was strong, but equally compelling was my desire to build. Melding both print manipulation and construction, I find textiles the perfect landing on which to use both. Yes, the world knows the tradition of quilting. These are not that. My works use the connection of thread to construct with pattern, texture, and the ability to reorder the picture plane. I love the world I've made outside of the normal rules of quilt making, allowing me to make a different heritage in fiber art." And what really drew me to Pat's work was the fact that these do go beyond the traditional idea of quilt making. Not that she needs to go beyond that. I mean, the traditional quilt making is amazing. We've had more traditional quilts in exhibitions here at Main Street Arts. That's definitely something that I respect and admire. But the fact that these are also abstract paintings or abstract prints, and they're quilts. I mean, it's kind of like two things at once. I really appreciated that, and I just love the depth and the texture she's able to get and the color with this work. This one is one of my favorites in the exhibition as well. It's called Player Piano. And I'm especially drawn to these lines that are in here and the darkness here as well. And we'll go take a look at one more in the other room here. And as I said, there's more upstairs too. This piece is called A la carte. And one thing I noticed when I was standing here at the opening reception was how this almost looks like a little scene unto itself here. It's like we're standing in a room with wooden floors and a dark wall behind it, and there's this large object for some reason floating in the middle of the room. So you can always find something that speaks to you in all this work for sure. And we'll take a look at some work by Joanna Poag and her clay collages here. So Joanna Poag received her MFA from the School for American Crafts at RIT and her bachelor's from Roberts Wesleyan College. In addition to her art practice, she is an instructor of art in Rochester, New York, where she lives with her husband and 3 children. And give you a nice close-up so you can see the textures and the way that the different pieces transition. And Joanna says of her work, "My work explores time and structure in its various states as it relates to personal narrative and memory. I use colored clay to create playful collages that involve traditional quilt patterns and linear patterns that focus on movement. The material relationships between textiles, paper, and clay creates a dialogue about softness, strength, firmness of mind, and narrative. For me, the most valuable aspect of collage is the cutting up and rearranging of elements that already exist. For centuries, women have been making compelling, complex arrangements of the scripts and scraps we've found or been given. This work mirrors my own experiences of fragmentation and the revealing and obscuring of information." So in her statement, just kind of talking about quilts, just on a formal level, these 2 artists that we've looked at so far, you can see how they go together. And then when you look visually, you can see, similar patterning and fragmentation of space, just very interesting. And these are some of my favorites of Joanna's in the show. Although with all these artists, I'm hard-pressed to find a true favorite, and that's kind of true for me for most exhibitions, because I just like the way that work fits together, the intersection between 2 pieces, even more than an individual piece a lot of the time. But these 2 pieces, Summer Half Over 1 and 2, I definitely appreciate the way they look more than the title, since I guess we probably are at a place where summer is half over, being the 7th of August now. But I like to prolong that, so I'm not going to look at the title of this any further. But all of the work that Joanna has in the show, she does with colored clay. So the clay is wet. It's not, broken pieces of fired clay that are fit together like a mosaic. These are actually, colored bits of clay that get rolled out together to create patterns. Then she cuts up each of those patterns and reforms them with other patterns to make these kind of quilt-like collage pieces. And it's really interesting to see how vibrant some of the colors she's able to get here. This orange, very neon. To my understanding, it's difficult to do that with these stains that you use in the clay, because the white clay body kind of diffuses the vibrant color, but it's really cool to see when it can kind of glow like this. This piece is called All Blooms. And we'll just go and take a look at a little set of 3 pieces here on the wall before we move on to Werner. But just great movement in her work, and really with all these artists, but these in particular. Also some of my favorites. I guess they're all my favorites. So next we'll look at Werner Sun. So we got one right here to look at. This one is called Rose Window 20. This is part of a larger series called Rose Window. And Werner Sun was Werner Sun was raised in North Haven, Connecticut, and he lives and works in Ithaca, New York. After obtaining undergraduate and graduate degrees in physics, Werner became a research associate at the Cornell Laboratory for Accelerator-Based Sciences and Education, where he is currently the IT director. And I feel that Werner's work is a great example of where art and science meet. I think it's a really interesting and effective, thing that he's come up with. And Werner says of his work, "I create handmade objects that are rich in visual information. I work with digital images and compositions that are printed on paper, then embellished with paintings and drawings and folded into geometric structures. Often, I use photographs of these finished constructions as source material for subsequent pieces. This iterative process generates complex sequences of image-based sculptures whose layered surfaces reveal the accumulated history of their making. In these objects, every visual layer is a lens for interpreting the ones below it. Even a folded print is a type of manually processed image. In transforming images with algorithms, I draw on my prior work in physics, where I use mathematical methods to analyze large amounts of data to uncover new insights into nature. Scientific insights can be profound, but they can also be removed from everyday lives. By contrast, my artistic practice brings the production of knowledge to the human scale. I take the abstract thought patterns of science and apply them to tangible digital materials, thus imbuing my sculpted prints with the analog sense of time and attention that are central to my personal experience." And some of my favorites of Werner's, again, it's hard to really state which ones are my favorites, but I love the way that these hanging pieces, I guess for lack of a better way to talk about it, I just love the way they hang here. I mean, the way that they were installed, I was hoping that they would feel like they're leaving the wall, floating into the air, and then trying to leave the gallery, kind of fitting with the theme of the exhibition, No Time to Be Tame. Even the artwork itself is not tame. But a lot of detail in all this work, in particular here with Werner, even the multicolored strings holding these floating angular pieces, just another layer, another level to appreciate. And, as you've seen some of this exhibition, seeing the common color scheme, throughout each of the artist's work, somewhat accidental from my perspective as the curator, or I guess maybe subconscious. I was, choosing work from each of the artists, and, I think just a common color theme kind of came out. But also, these colors are representative of what these artists are making. So just kind of an interesting thing to notice, I suppose. Like even this transition from Pat Pauly over to Joanna's, these colors, just interesting. And the textures too. I just want to show you the title for the show here. These letters were done by Lori Freer. Lori has done typography for many of our exhibitions over the last several years, and this one is one of my favorites for sure. She really captured the essence of the artist's work with her letters. So I want to take us upstairs to see the work that's in our art resource library. And on the way up there, also take a look at pastel paintings by Lana Grauer. So Lana Grauer is a pastel landscape painter living on a vineyard in Penn, New York. And her subject matter includes the lakes and forests of the area, the seasonal changes in the landscape, continuously providing new inspiration for paintings. And Lana says of her work, living in the Finger Lakes provides a wealth of subject matter for an artist to spend time studying and then painting. I find it equally important to dedicate sufficient attention to both of these activities in order to create a composition that is unique and harmonious. Art is a lifetime joy. So forgive the glare as I go up the stairs here, but just some really great pastel work here. And Lana is also participating in our 4th annual plein air in Clifton Springs this year. That's going to be September 14th, so that's our next exhibition as well, which will run through October 16th. But there'll be a day-long painting event, which will then lead to an exhibition, and Lana will be a part of that. We'll take a look at the rest of the show here as we go upstairs. But she really captures a really great sense of the mood of these places with her color choices. Very naturalistic, but also, very evocative of, giving us an emotion as well. And I think I may have said this before, definitely in person to people who were here, but maybe on a video. So far, nothing has looked bad on these yellow walls in our Stairwell Gallery. So I'm not sure what that means, but maybe yellow is the universal color. All right, so just to finish this off, we'll just take a look at the art resource library and the work that's in here. So just one more from Pat Pauly, and then several from Joanna and Werner. But I really like splitting some of the work off into the art resource library because it's a whole different experience to see the work up here. It's a quieter space, it's smaller, a little more intimate. It also feels a little bit more like, someone's home, so you can kind of feel like, what is it like to live with this work? We've got furniture, tables, chairs, bookshelves. And it creates a nice backdrop if you're up here using the art resource library, which I encourage everyone to do when they visit. And also, we always pull books that kind of go along, with the exhibition. So we've got our recommended books here, somewhat curated. So I'd like to thank you for tuning in to this walkthrough. You can preview and purchase work from the exhibitions at our website, mainstreetartscs.org. And both of these exhibitions are up through Wednesday, September 4th. We hope you'll have a chance to come in and visit the show for yourself. And the gallery is open Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 11 to 3, and Thursdays through Saturdays from 11 to 6. And don't forget to tune in to our artist talk with Pat, Joanna, and Werner, Tuesday, August 13th at 5 p.m. Thanks again.